Hey, this is Alex Head, founder of Subtext Radio.
This is Subtext.
Please go ahead and click the like button and the subscribe button. It really helps us to reach new audiences and promote the artists that we work with. Hit like and hit subscribe.
Welcome to Subtext. I'm Anabelle Lacroix. What you are about to hear is Leave a Message explaining contemporary art to live eels. It's a sonic archaeology of a much-loved piece of art by Paris-based Australian duo A Constructed World, known for their performative attitudes towards speech, meaning, matter, and publishing. This radiophonic piece includes interviews with the artists recorded by myself during the summer of 2020 and sound from performances, conferences, and exhibitions that composed the work, which started in 2004 and is still ongoing. Experts and the audience were invited to explain contemporary art to live eels through speaking devices with underwater speakers, microphones, resonators, and amplifiers, or by leaving a message. Enjoy.
Hi, Eel. How are you? My name's Catherine. I wonder if I'm actually talking to an eel. I just imagine you in a tank, hiding behind some weeds, and you have a little house, a little fake castle, but there's also a phone inside your tank, and you're getting calls from people from all over the world. I think I'm developing a crush for you. À toutes.
On essayait de joindre les anguilles, mais il n'y a personne.
On a large scale, things one read about in the newspapers, dans les journaux.
She sent a picture of a kitten.
Donc elle a envoyé depuis l'Australie une image, une photographie
A picture of a kitten.
d'un chat.
A flashing third eye.
With avec un troisième œil luminescent.
Third eye.
Third eye.
You know, like it's the third eye. Okay. And Sean sent the statement, Sean sent the statement, imagine everyone is your partner.
To understand the work of a constructed world, you have to have been in it, which a lot of people have been in it. You know, like a lot of people have sung and danced and written and done all of these things. And he said that was the sort of kind of baptism of it in that kind of sense. But what we've more recently, I think it came from reading Francis Ferguson a lot, that what we began to think that what we were doing was that we were making a conversation. So what the work of a constructed world is a conversation between 1 or 20 or whatever, different number of people like that. And the artworks are like paintings or recordings or all of these different things are affects of the conversations, things that are thrown off the conversation and brought about by the conversation.
Yeah.
Whereas the normal
they're not the objects that then make the conversation.
Yeah. And I think that's the strategic difference that we've learned by doing sort of thing. Well, I think it's really interesting this, because if we, over the years, because we work we've asked people to do all sorts of things, to sing, to write, to do all sorts of things. And, you know, often half the work is in a sense like building that trust enough or the interest enough for the person to become involved. And it's quite a lot of the work. But this project has been really exemplary, because I don't even remember anyone saying they didn't want to do it. But when you say they're going to be talking to the eels, and without us even explaining, like, why do we talk to eels or anything like that, they just go, okay.
Hi, this is Sebastian calling from Paris. Here is a text by Richard Husenbeck, written in Zurich 1919, called Prière Fantastique in document Dada. Dada's rigorous conception of life takes into account all possible transcendences. Its horopter is completely universal. It is therefore a misunderstanding, often criticized by the Dadaists themselves, to want to limit Dada to being nothing but an art movement. The Dadaist is as much artist as Anguilla worshipper, globetrotter as metaphysician, mantician, diviner as businessman. Anguilla worshippers, this must not be considered as a farce, for there is nothing gratuitous or absurd about it. The behavior of Anguilla is, on the contrary, one of the most mysterious phenomena. Quote, Anguilla of the Atlantic are, it seems, internationally organized and hold yearly congresses on the Sargasso Sea, near the Bermuda. They come from far and wide, from Europe and American rivers. It is here that they dive to lay their eggs. Next, the young larvae leave this sea, and even though they all look the same, they separate. Those of European origin undertake the long voyage that via the Gulf Stream and the North Atlantic current brings them in only 3 years to European coasts. The task is easier for the American associates of this astonishing organization, who undertake the long and perilous journey back toward the Sargasso Sea, also a mystery for science. What is the signal that sets them into motion? What is the compass that guides them? Nobody knows. End of the quote. I hope you got the message. You can call me back when you want.
What we're thinking about is what would animals say if we made the right address.
Explaining contemporary art to live eels was, we made those projects, aquatic environments, in museums and art centres. You know, it was very much an installation and an artwork and in an art context, because we would invite well-known art critics and art historians and artists to come and speak to the eels.
we built this apparatus to try and invite people to make choices about how they wanted to speak, about what type of address they were making. So there's 3 different types of microphones, microphones that function differently like that. There's the tin can telephone that was put to the edge of the water. There's an underwater speaker that went under the water. Yeah. And then there's an amplifier that addressed more the audience that was watching the people speak. So if you spoke through one of the microphones, it would go through that, and you'd, in a sense, be talking to the amplifier. Yeah. Or you could be talking through the tin can telephone and no one would hear what you were saying, only the eels would hear what you were saying. Or there's this muscle microphone that we made, which is a sculpture, like a Fred Flintstone muscle microphone. And the idea, well, it's a telepathic machine, I guess, is that you frame both instinctually and intellectually, or whatever, what you want to say, and then you try and sort of transmit that, because, you know, you don't believe it's physically going, like, because a tin can telephone does carry the message, the underwater, and then the other one is just the these diaphragms that are like the tin can telephone, but a bit louder, like that. I think the thing that we were really interested in and enchanted by when we got to France was this idea of materialism, and that how much materialism could include, sort of thing, that the telephone was a sort of sign of a material voice, or this kind of thing, so that you could think about anything within this tradition of material thought, and that, you know, and even just the idea of material thought is really interesting, and this project has a lot to do with all of those things.
Yeah, and we really wanted, you know, we're attracted to this idea of making speech material.
If you don't know that you're going to say what you mean to say, or various versions of that, which is right, I think, and then you say it through the telephone, or into a recorder, you know, to some extent it's sort of like this idea that the telephone might make it true, but then perhaps, I don't know, when you go back to find that, it can't be proven. And, well, my only solution to this forever has been better to do it with others then. And the two things that we talked about, I think, were the most, were, first of all, this idea of not knowing, that we're in this sort of not knowing relation with the eels, and we don't know what's going to happen, and, you know, we don't know how many of them are left, and all of these kind of things. And then this incredibly profound sense of instinct, and that instinct is always something that was really valued, particularly in modern art, that like you say, that you'd put before words or something before text and things like that, that it had some sort of power like that. So anyway, the eels managed to do, that they can start in the Sargasso Sea, they float across the Sargasso Sea kind of without eating or swimming, and then they get to the shore of Western Europe, and then they change to be one of two different species at the estuary, like at the
point of entry.
Yeah, the threshold between the salt water and the fresh water. And then they can go as far as Poland, and they can go across the land, and they can live in a volcanic lake, and they can be up high, they can be down low, and then after 20 to 40 years they make the passage back again to the Sargasso Sea, and then they procreate and die, and the cycle begins again.
Comparisons whether their analogies are in terms of rigid mechanics or more plastic dynamics. They were to animals as mere objects. The proponents of such theories forget that thus they have overlooked the most important thing, the subject which uses the tools, perceives and functions with their aid. The mechanists have pieced together the sensory and motor minds of animals like so many parts of the machine, ignoring their real functions, perceiving and acting. According to the behaviorists, man's own sensations and dwell on their appearance to be considered only as disturbance to him. We still hold that our sense organs serve our perceptions and our motor organs our actions. See in animals as well not only the mechanical structure, but also the operator who is built into their organs as we are into our bodies. We no longer regard animals as mere machines, but as subjects whose essential activity consists in perceiving and acting. We thus unlock the gates that lead to other realms, for all that a subject perceives becomes his perceptual world, and all that he does his effectual world. Perceptual and effectual worlds together form the closed unit of the unworld. These different worlds, which are as manifold as the animals themselves, present to all nature lovers we lands of such wealth and beauty that to walk through them is well worthwhile, even though they unfold not to the physical but only to the spiritual eye. So, reader, join us as we ramble through these worlds of wonder.
We had always known about Joseph Boy's thing, How to Explain Pictures to a Dead Hare, from, I think, 1965. And what he did that in a gallery, and he had a glass wall there, and the audience was on the outside of the glass wall looking in, and he was making all these shamanistic moves with a dead hare, and sort of shaking it. I actually saw a much better print of it a couple of weeks ago. I hadn't seen it for a long time. And he's sort of shaking the dead hare in front of all of these different paintings and artworks in different situations to try and get a response out of it. And so what I began to see that what he was saying was that this impossibility that we've just talked about, so there's this impossibility, so that art and romantic art, because finally that's a completely romantic gesture that belongs to this pure transmission idea of romanticism, where you get a pure transmission of something, and he's attempting a pure transmission and it fails. So the ineffability of art relies on the fact that communication can never take place, and so that's what makes the kind of cathedral of art that everybody loves, that you can't ever understand, and even when you think you've understood, you haven't understood, and all. So that what he's sort of dancing this through the gallery to try and get it across, and the audience is sitting there watching. So we just got this rather stupid idea that why don't we just reverse all of that, and why don't we have the audience inside speaking, and why don't we propose the eels, and to see whether if they speak about their area of expertise, that whether some actual transmission could take place. So that it's in contradiction to that kind of idea of romanticism, in the sense that what if it was possible that just one moment of understanding took place and the eel went back, or that someone learned something from eel, or even a more exaggerated example with the cat with the third eye, where something happened and we didn't know that it happened, but it had happened.
Above the water, and don't rock the boat. Take the bitter taste out of your mouth and examine your throat.
But I don't know what I want. How do I know what I want? What should I want? What is best to want? Can you tell me?
You should ask for the head of John the Baptist.
Okay, give me the head of John the Baptist.
Oh, no.
Well, in modernism, particularly the inaccessibility, even though everyone says they want to understand, and they complain when they don't understand, like critics and publics and gatekeepers and that, also that in fact the most famous works are all about not understanding, like the Mona Lisa. Is she smiling? Is she unhappy? And the Sphinx, and you know, all of these really super powerful works, are all about not understanding, and you know, some works in modernism like Leonardo da Vinci and that have incredibly homoerotic subtexts that were just passed over and no one even looked at them, and so there's this kind of really low level of understanding. And so that's what we began to think about together too, like that, what was this role in that, you know, you have this sort of passion for ignorance in a negative sense, that when we talk about politics and that people are kind of looking away and that, and then I never got anywhere near the answer to this, but what's the difference between innocence and ignorance? And, you know, because you have this relation to knowledge with innocence, and then the finding of knowledge, and then that having a tragic quality to it. people made, instead of the Duchampian idea of a thing, this relation between the object and the thing itself. And so that instead of the audience making the work finished by looking at it and talking about it, that this is what the Benjamin and this guy that we'd worked a lot with called Darian Leader in London said that they make the work unfinished by deciding that it is a work of art. And so that once you decide it's not the thing itself and that it's a signifier, it becomes a really long, protracted process that could take place over generations or centuries to actually explain how it is a different thing. And so the two examples that we used a lot at the time were Martin Creed turning the lights on and off, because, you know, this is not difficult to do, but one's an artwork and everyone else can turn the lights on and off. But what is it that makes it be an artwork like that?
Freeman's Island. Freeman's Island. What the fuck? What the fuck is going on with Manus Island?
God is speaking to you. The Israelites plead for mercy from snakes falling from the sky. God orders Moses to cast the serpent in copper and set it on a staff. Then those who'd been bitten by the snakes looked up. They were cured and survived. Recently, La Battaglia foundry in Milano, as a result of industrial and pagan processes, Constructed World launch here now this robotic eel and staff that will enunciate formerly hidden speech. This speaking eel will prompt the round table and you, the audience, to speak. Due to pollution, overfishing and worldwide massacre by hydroelectric turbines, the number of eels is now 1% of what it was in 1980. 99% have been lost. So, Anguilla have been building a sculpture of the human voice as a plea for mercy too. The ancients called for and demanded relief and retribution from the serpents and looked at the image. In the Bible, the snakes killed all the people, and now the people kill all the eels. Right now, the eels seek retribution by speaking to you, and you can call 01 209 5885. So who are you going to call? Who are you going to call?
Who are you going to call?
I think Sebastian's calling.
Life is short, so am I. Better give me something so I don't die. No cocaine for the soul. Before I burn up, before I burn up, I'm back. And I'm back. Jesus standing trial, coming back. Never
And there was quite a maudlin sensitivity coming from passers-by, quite often, that perhaps they'd look at it and evaluate it, that it was something to do with the environmental question now, which, you know, I think everyone is really worried about. I don't think there's any question of that. So someone's cycling past and they go, what's this? And it's for speaking to eels. And, you know, often people just suddenly bring up this quite unhappy sort of material and that, and not ironise because a lot of people go, hello eels, and do all of that sort of stuff, but sometimes people would just go like that,
unload,
and just perhaps say because they're worried, I guess, and that they just would use that as this sudden example to transmit, and that felt pretty good, that was available to do. To perhaps suddenly and almost unintentionally talk about something profound or deep or something like that without working on it.
You're listening to Subtext Radio.